All right, I wanted to do a quick video with some tips on the straight line sundial method. This method seems to be the best method I've seen so far. I mean, I'd like to still test a few things, kind of testing the position of the sun against the stars, but as far as sundials go, this just seems to be the best thing I've seen for confirming the first day of spring. There's a little nail on this board that when the sun rises up over here, it casts a shadow down on the board over here at the beginning of the day, and then as the sun gets high in the sky, the marks start moving down the board like to the middle, and then for sunset the sun is behind me and the shadow is being cast down this way on the board. And the pattern that you see before the spring equinox is like a happy face, and then on the last day of the year it's a perfect straight line, and the day following is a frowny face pattern. These dots on the board, they make that pattern. And I guess I'll just show you real quick, and then I'll talk about some suggestions for how you might want to do your sundial. But so in the morning, what I like to do, you really only need 3 points at the most. Like if you're pressed for time, you can have success with this method if you only have time in the day to get 3 points. 1 in the morning, 1 right around solar noon, which is somewhere around 1 p.m.-ish, and then 1 more late in the day. And that at 3 points is enough to help you to see if it's straight or a curve. So, but the more you get, the better. For various reasons. If it gets cloudy, you might not have any points. You might miss points. So anyway, this is how I like to do it. So there's nothing really fancy about this. You need something solid. Okay, so I use logs, and I just screw a board to the logs, and then I have a screw kind of mounted. And I mean, the higher you're able to get this point, the more pronounced your curves will be. But I mean, I have had success with a very short screw, like taking a 3-inch screw and just putting it. This is another sundial board that I use up on the hill, and for this one, I just take the 3-inch screw and I'll run it right through the board, and like only 1.5 inches of it sticks out. But I mean, that's plenty. Like last year, I proved to myself that even a short one, as long as you're able to get the key, the secret, the most important thing, is to get an early morning data point as early as you can, and then 1 point right around solar noon, somewhere around 1 o'clock, and 1 in the evening. And that's even with a short nail casting a shadow, whatever you have, I mean, you'll still be able to see that curve. So, but I was experimenting with this. I wanted a little taller, and I used a little bigger board. I heard of someone who wanted to use a street lamp, and I will just say, if you are able to find a flat surface, like a huge parking lot maybe, another important thing is your recording surface has to be flat. From what I've seen, and you can test this if you have any doubts, but from what I've seen, oh, dog's barking something. All you need is a flat surface. You need a nice flat surface. So whether that's a board, like a 2x4, or a big tabletop, or if you're able to find a big parking lot of pavement, it has to be flat though. You have to make sure and when I say flat, like it can't have bumps in it. Because I did try doing a sundial using my chimney one year. I apologize for the dogs if you can't hear me. I really can't do anything to make them be quiet. But the little bumps in my yard, like there was some uneven terrain in my yard. So when I was looking at that shadow, it did cause the curve to do funny things. And so if you're going to try using a taller sundial, like a street lamp, you just need to make sure your recording surface is like a perfect plane. And maybe if you're in a Walmart parking lot or something, maybe that might work out for you. If you got, I don't know. I've never tried that big scale, but I just want to throw that out. Anyway, so this doesn't have to be perfectly level. You might surprise yourself, but you could have a board on its side like that, or at any level you want. And I do believe you will still see the straight line cut its path across your flat surface, so long as the surface is flat and doesn't have like undulations or big dents or warps or things in it. But if you have any concern, go ahead and level your board. But what I've found is as long as it's a flat surface, it'll cut those curves and straight lines regardless if it's flat. So anyway, you want to make sure you mount your board or your whatever you're going to be recording to a very sturdy, unmovable surface. Like, you can't move your setup from day to day. So I mean, I just use these big logs and I screw this board, and it stays pretty much where I want it to. But don't get like a card table that could blow away in the wind, or that has like 4 sharp feet that go down into the ground, and if you put your weight on it, it might go down in the ground like 2 inches and then move the top of your board. Like, you want to make sure your recording surface is gonna stay put. And so anyway, what I like to do is my first point of the day, I like to, so what I did was, the shadow of this screw was being cast in the early morning, and it kind of followed the line of my pencil, the shadow of that screw, and it fit inside of that little triangle mark that I made, just like that. The shadow of the nail was just like that this morning. And so all I did was I took my pencil and I traced around the shape of that shadow. And then for the first point of the day, I like to give it the date, because you're going to be recording like a few days in a row. And then I give it a letter. So all the other points from there on out, I don't congest my board. I just stick with the letter. So the letter A is for today's date. And then I give myself a note of what time of day it was. So that was the first point of the day. And here are a couple points I got around lunchtime. And again, the nail at this point, the shadow was just like something like that. And so I just traced around the tip of that thing, and I gave it an A, and I told the time, and I did the same here. And then I got one more point at the end of the day at 5 p.m. And if you check my other sundial videos from last year, the most success I had was actually a sundial board that I put up on the hill up there, and I was able to see the sunrise. Like, these trees are in the way. I do recommend that you test your sundial out like a couple times. I wouldn't wait till the last minute either. You want to make sure you kind of work out a few bugs, but sometimes things like trees and the sun trying to shine through the trees can make the shadow faint and hard to see. But anyway, what I was going to say, and another example is, like, today was my first day recording data, and I wasn't exactly sure what the orientation of this needed to be. Approximately, like, not exactly like east and west, but somewhere thereabouts. But my board, I kind of ran out of board. Like, my first point was there, I had some points here, and then it hooked off my board here. So I think, like, as I get closer to the equinox event, I'm going to fine-tune the orientation of this board so I have more runway here to record more marks. So I need to, from the looks of this, I need to twist it a little like that to find that, to be able to find data points. But from my from my spot up on the hill, I was able to record points, I think, as early as like 7 a.m. And like I said, that is the most important thing with this method, is that you get a point as early in the morning as possible and as late in the evening as possible. And I mean, you just got to do what you can do. But I'll tell you, if you're because people can get confused. Like, I've seen this a lot over the years. If they get data points at like 10 or 11 a.m. and then they stop at 3 p.m., they're like, oh, it's a straight line. But if you don't get those early morning points, that's where the most hook in your arc will happen. And so you might if you only got a few points in here from like 10 to 3, then I would say that's unfortunately inconclusive. You really need to get an early morning point and a late night point. And so, depending on your location, you might want to change locations. That's another bug to work out before like the actual equinox event. Like you might need to jump to a different location that has a better shot of the sunrise and the sunset. So, let's see. I guess I can show you, I already explained everything. I guess I can show you one more thing, just what it looks like today, this arc. So I've got a straight-ish board here that I'm just going to lay down on the first mark of the day and the last mark of the day. So I'm going to line it up. Where is that mark? I'm going to just put it approximately there. And you need to be more fine-tuned like the day of the actual equinox event, but I'm going to put that other mark there. So it's approximately on that mark. It's approximately on that mark. So then look at these marks. Look how far off the line they are. See my other board right here? So we're still looking at the happy face, and it's quite a substantial hook at this point. As you get closer to the equinox, it will be closer to a straight line, but over the years, what I've seen is there is definitely a 3-day period where if you get the early morning points and the late night evening points, and then some around solar noon, you can definitely see distinctly 3 days in sequence where you've got your data points hooking one way, and then it's a straight line, and then it's hooking the other way to confirm that that seasonal transition has happened. So I think that's kind of a little crash course with this method. That's all I can think of at the moment. Definitely get out there and practice a little. Like the equinox is still 2 to 3 weeks out at this point, but I like to get out early like this to work out the bugs that I mentioned. Like you got to make sure you have a good location for sunrise and sunset. Like I don't have it as good down here. My first point was only 8 a.m. and up on the hill I was able to get 7 a.m. So you might need to experiment with your location. And then once you've got a good location, you need to take 1 or 2 days of data to make sure the orientation of your board is good. So you've got a good runway to get your points during the day. If you're using like a big tabletop or a big parking lot, or a big 8 by 4 foot particle board or something big, then you don't have to worry about that so much. But with my boards here, I kind of got to make sure it's sort of oriented close, so the shadow actually stays on my board. So that's I think that's all I got for now. Some people were asking how to do this, and it's really easy. Like, it really is. Just get yourself a flat surface. It doesn't have to be perfectly level. Get yourself something that's going to cast a shadow, and just start recording some data. Some points. You'll see that shadow move. You'll start to get familiar with how this works, and it's really simple. And it's really important to hear from as many people around the earth as possible. Don't count on other people to do this for you, because the start of the solar year, the start of the end of the season, it's shifting around. Like the international date line out in the ocean, that is a fake man-made line, but this solar cycle does end. And it ends on an irregular pattern, and so the international date line in the Pacific Ocean is false, but somewhere the creator's true international date line does begin the start of time. And so if you're not doing this for yourself, there's a chance time might have started in a slightly different location. You might be 1 day ahead or 1 day behind. So I recommend you do it as long as we have like 2 or 3 people around the earth doing it, like maybe one in the United States, one in kind of like Africa time zones, and then one in Australian time zones. That's usually a pretty good spread. And it sounds like we might have that many people this year. And that helps us to pinpoint exactly where time began. But they might get clouded out. They might get rainstorms and clouds. And so it's just a good idea to do it yourself as well. So, like, time is where you are. I've heard someone say that once, and that's a very good summary of this. Time is where you are. So, I mean, you can use other people's data to help you figure out where time began, but nothing beats being able to get your own data to be able to see that straight line and know at your location that the season ended. So I encourage you to get out there and do that, and keep me posted. If you're going to be collecting data, let me know. I collect all the data, and I try and summarize it and keep it in one place so people can, check it out, and, compare what they choose to do with that data is up to them. But I mean, at least getting all those witnesses together for people to consider, I think is very useful. So I have my YouTube channel. Leave a comment on this video if you're going to be collecting sundial data, or there's a group on Facebook that I have that's called Solar Observations, confirming the Creator's times via solar observations, Genesis 1:14 or something like that. Check that out, or send me an email at avoiceoftruthandlove@gmail.com to let me know that you'll be collecting data, and I will, if you're open to it, I'll share whatever your findings are with other truth seekers, so we can kind of have an understanding of when this seasonal transition occurs. So, gosh, I think that's it for now. Shalom, and may Abba bless as you continually seek out his truth in love with a pure heart.